I am Scully 9. Observation Protocol Online. Accessing declassified data. Transmission begins now. How did life begin? Was it a sophisticated architect, or something more? Parallel universes? Alternate realities? Government projects? We are not the only ones. How many entities exist? What is their origin? The reason for their visit to Earth? What pact did the government make? Why are they hiding it? Reality is not what it seems. The truth has been hidden from us. These and more questions about this hidden mystery we will be analyzing. Don't miss this and our next episodes. Welcome visitors. Let's share with our community to learn more about everything they're hiding from us. And thank you for joining us. Let's begin. The mystery beneath the Earth, a deep, hidden world. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie beneath our feet? What mysteries might lie hidden in the depths beyond the reach of the human eye? Today I'll take you to a place that isn't just a basement or just any bunker, but an underground facility that extends beyond imagination, more than 60 stories deep. Yes, you heard right, more than 60 levels down, a true world beneath the world, where reality and science fiction seem to blend. Imagine walking through long, perfectly sterile white corridors, surrounded by doors that open like gigantic portals to other worlds, where technology and biology merge in ways that defy all logic. There, in an environment that seems like something out of a futuristic film, work is carried out with tissues and organisms that do not belong to our planet. One of the most striking aspects I discovered was the existence of tissue samples with a texture and color that reminded me of salmon fillet, but not just any fillet, but a living, complex, and surprisingly resilient tissue. This tissue seems alive and, at the same time, as strange as it is fascinating, because it possesses characteristics that blend biological and technological elements, as if it were a mixture of nature and machine. And if you're wondering, how can this be possible? I'll tell you that this place also hides partial bodies, anatomical pieces that appear to belong to extraterrestrial beings. These aren't mere rumors, but rather samples with skins of surprising patterns, like an iridescent hue, with spots that look like they came from a wild animal, with recognizable, yet at the same time strange, internal structures. One example that struck me was a torso with bluish skin, reminiscent of the colors and patterns of leopards or certain exotic animals, but with a texture and shine we haven't seen here on Earth. Now tell me, can you imagine what it's like to be in front of something like this? To be in contact with tissues that not only challenge biology as we know it, but also the very perception of reality? What would you think if you were told that these fragments come from beings that could measure up to 13 feet tall, or even more, and that they are being studied in secret? Before continuing, I want you to think, do you think humanity is ready to discover the truth hidden in these depths? Or do we prefer to continue ignoring these mysteries that could change everything we think we know? What they haven't told you about life. Let me start with an uncomfortable question. One that few dare to ask. What if everything you thought you knew about the human body, about life, and even about yourself, was incomplete? Did you know something like this existed? Or did you imagine it could be so profound, so advanced, and so secret? Tell me in the comments. Because what I'm going to show you in the next block is even more shocking. Under surveillance, the price of silence. Before we continue, let me warn you of something. Nothing you're about to hear is part of the official narrative. This testimony isn't from a novel, nor a conspiracy movie. It comes from someone who was there, inside, and whose life was at risk for what they chose to reveal. Because once you step through the door of these underground facilities, there's no turning back. What happens down there is not meant to be known to the rest of the world. Once inside, everything changes. the outside world begins to blur. The people who work in these facilities don't just walk in for a shift. Many never leave, they live inside. They remain underground for days, weeks, even months. And while they are there, every step, every conversation, every movement is monitored. There's no privacy. There's no escape. They know at all times where you are, who you're talking to, what you're doing. It's a completely closed ecosystem, where hierarchies are strict and divisions are absolute. They call this compartmentalization, a structure so hermetic that no one knows more than necessary. Each person accesses only the information they need for their specific task. Nothing more. This prevents the pieces from connecting, from anyone understanding the whole. And because of this, very few truly know what's going on at the deepest levels. There are scientists who have never spoken to each other, despite working meters apart. And if anyone starts asking questions they shouldn't, they're quickly reassigned. Or they disappear. Did you know this worked like this? Did you imagine such an absolute level of control, even within one location? Leave me your opinion in the comments, because in the next block we're going to go even further, and what you'll find down there will leave you breathless.
If you enjoy this type of video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Technology that shouldn't exist. What if I told you there are machines underground that no one knows how they work, yet they are still used? Stay, because this has no logical explanation. It wasn't just biology that was being manipulated down there. There was also technology. But not just any technology. We're talking about devices that seem not one, but several generations ahead of what we know today. Imagine holding a device the size of a showbox that emits a faint light and yet is capable of generating energy fields, modifying the environment, or interacting with certain materials as if reading them. And the most disturbing thing is this: no one knew for sure how it worked. Not even the scientists who were there. They only knew what it did, not how it did it. It was as if they were playing with things that didn't belong to them, as if they were trying to imitate something they never fully understood. In the corridors, people whispered about integrated intelligence, about objects that seemed to have consciousness, or at least some kind of unprogrammed response. There were screens without buttons, materials that changed shape when touched, and surfaces that reacted to mental stimuli. Yes, as if the devices were activated by the mind, or by something deeper, something we can't name. And you know what's most disturbing? Many of these devices weren't built there. They were recovered, found under circumstances that were never fully explained. Some came from accidents, others from excavations. But none of them bore any human marks. What do you think? Do you think we're already using technology that doesn't belong to us? Or is all this just science fiction? Leave me your comment, because what comes next is even more shocking. Living technology, the breathing secret. What if I told you that the technology within those facilities is not only advanced, but alive? At even more restricted levels, beyond what most are allowed to reach, they work with materials that cannot be described as simple instruments or components. Because they are alive. They regenerate. They change. They respond. Imagine tissue that, when cut, begins to close on its own, as if it had an immune system, as if it understood that it had been damaged. We're not talking about ordinary organs, or even traditional cloning. We're talking about something that feels, that reacts, and that, according to certain inside sources, could even be mentally connected to those who manipulate it. What has been found in those rooms, so white, so silent, so outside of any human norm, is simply impossible to explain with current logic. Fragments of skin that change color depending on the environment, as if they breathe with the air. Tissues that, when placed on metal structures, begin to integrate with them, as if they knew they must merge. A total symbiosis between the biological and the artificial. Are we facing an artificial life form? Or technology brought from another civilization that never knew the boundary between machine and organism? And this is where everything becomes even more disturbing. Because these tissues are not isolated. They are connected to systems, to larger structures, as if they were pieces of something else, of someone else. The big question is not just where they came from, but what is their ultimate purpose? Did you know that there were technologies capable of healing themselves or fusing with metal as if they were part of the same being? Could you imagine something like this, working right now, secretly, underground? Leave me your opinion in the comments, because what comes in the next block could change your perception of life itself. Non-human languages, when silence also communicates. Have you ever wondered how non-human beings communicate? Because in these underground facilities, not everything is communicated with words. Some of the closest witnesses to these entities have revealed a disturbing detail. There are no screams, no whispers, no audible language like ours. And yet, something is transmitted. They say you only have to be in the same room to feel it. A kind of direct understanding, as if the thought were captured without the need for sound. As if the air itself carried meaning. And the most disturbing thing is that it's not always you who is thinking. Some have reported feeling emotions that aren't their own. Ideas that appear in their minds as if they've been planted. Visions, memories that aren't theirs. A transfer that doesn't seem like technology, nor even magic, but a completely different form of communication, from an intelligence that thinks in layers we don't yet understand. One of the strangest pieces of information shared by internal staff is the following. These beings don't need a language, because their mere presence is already a language. What if language is also an energetic field? What if we have limited human communication too much to sound? Perhaps that is why some people, after certain encounters, fall silent. Not because they don't want to speak, but because they no longer know how. Because what they experience goes beyond any learned words. Can you imagine living with something like that every day, without knowing if that thought that just crossed your mind was really yours? We've descended impossible corridors. We've seen breathing fabrics, entities that don't speak but speak everything, and technology that seems to have consciousness. And now, looking back, one question resonates more strongly than ever. What if all this weren't the exception, but the hidden norm of the world we live in? Because if one thing is clear, it's that we are not alone. We never have been. And perhaps, we aren't even the true protagonists of this story. These facilities are not simple laboratories. They are nodes of something larger. Of something we don't fully understand. An underground ecosystem where science, biology, and the non-human coexist in silence, waiting. And while most go about their daily lives without suspecting anything, some have already seen too much. Too much to turn back. Too much to remain silent. So, what would you do if you were one of them? Would you remain silent? Or would you share what you know, even knowing the consequences? Leave your opinion in the comments. Because maybe, together we can all start to piece this puzzle together. And if you feel like a piece is still missing, wait for the next video. What is coming could change everything.